You're listening to the Post-Apocalyptic Media Podcast.
All right, we are live. And I want to welcome everyone to the show. My name is Sean, and this right here is Mega Dude, also known as Bill. How you doing, Bill?
Okay. Hey, Sean. How's it going?
Pretty good. Yeah. As you may have noticed, Val looks different this week, and Bill's joining me this week. And the exciting news here is that Bill is actually a writer on the site now, right?
Yes, I am. I got in touch with Derek and Steph through the Discord and asked if it'd be okay if I contributed every once in a while, and they said, sure, why not? So, yeah, I helped Steph finish one article, and then I put up one of my own so far. So it's only been, about a week or so, but yeah, it's kind of cool to go in and kind of see how everybody else is writing their articles and kind of get ideas and tips from them, and yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and I'm happy to have you there because, when we had you on the show last time, we said that you're kind of the OG, right?
Yeah, sort of the grandfather of the group, but yeah, I know both of us have been around for a long time.
Yeah, that's why I like to tease you about it because I know that I've been around also.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is episode 32. I think the description on Twitch says 31, but I forgot to change that. So yeah, we're doing this live like we do every week, usually on Tuesdays, 5 o'clock Eastern, and what we do is we record it. We do it live on Tuesdays, we record it, and then the recording comes out on Fridays. And we have a video on YouTube, video version, and then we also have an audio version that comes out on for podcasts everywhere. So that's what we're doing. And as always, in every one of these episodes, we talk about the latest post-apocalyptic news. And there's a lot of it. It's funny. Every week, it's like, how could we possibly, like when we first started doing this, we're like, how could we possibly fill up, a podcast, an hour podcast with post-apocalyptic news every week? But it's actually turned out to be, there are things we have to cut sometimes where we say, well, we'll talk about this and not
absolutely.
that. Yeah. So it's a good problem to have.
Yep. Yeah. It's not like the old days when we started where, it's kind of just a pretty niche genre and, only the hardcore fans are around. Now it reaches out into, as we're going to talk about, TV shows, games, movies, books, everything.
Yeah. And there's so many crossovers too. There's, comic book to TV show and to movie.
Yep.
And that's a big thing right now is adapting comic books to movies and TV shows, which I'm happy about.
Yeah. And there's so much source material that they can go with. So,
So we have quite a few topics in this episode, but our main topic that we're going to talk about toward the end will be Sweet Tooth. And that is a Netflix original show, again, based on a comic series. And it just released last week. We've been talking about it, here and there on the podcast before, saying that it's going to come out. Well, all 8 episodes came out last week, and Bill and I both watched them. Loved it. I know I did. So we'll talk more about that. And we'll try to stay away from big spoilers. Like the last 2 episodes are, some pretty big twists. And it actually caught me by surprise. But we'll talk about that. But we won't talk about the actual spoilers because I don't want to blow it. I think that it's something that has to be experienced.
Still a little bit too early.
Yeah, a little too early. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started though with some other post-apoc news. And the first one is War of the Worlds. Now I haven't watched it myself, but I know you were into it, right?
Yeah. So basically back in 2019, there were actually 2 different War of the Worlds series that came out. One was just a 3-part BBC series. That one took place back in the, I guess they call it the Edwardian era, which I had to look up, and it's basically in the early 1900s. And so that one is kind of a more traditional take on the War of the Worlds story that we're all familiar with. That one is available for free on Amazon Prime if you want to go pick it up or take a look at it. But then separately from that, there was a second series also called War of the Worlds that came out in 2019. and that is the one that is on Epic's channel, which I guess is a kind of a MGM uh, family of content and such. Um, and so in 2019, it was an 8 episode run, and this one is more of a modern take. It takes place today, and basically some of it's in France and some of it's in England, and then they sort of blend the characters together and such. So if you want to see season one, which again aired in 2019, it is available for free in its entirety on either epics.com or if you go to Amazon, and it's there free as well. I don't know if you have to have Amazon Prime for it to be available to you, but it's part of the Amazon Prime channels where they add on kind of some Epics content.
Yeah.
So the show itself, like I said, I've only watched season one. I haven't watched any of season two yet, which if you look on the article on postapocalypticmedia.com, you'll see that season two just premiered this past Sunday. They actually put up 2 episodes of season two, which I haven't seen yet. But season one, I actually thought was pretty good. It's filmed well, and the one kind of quibble I had is so far, at least in season one, if you could watch the entire season, and if you didn't see what the title of the show was, you'd have no idea that it was a War of the Worlds adaptation. It's basically an alien invasion story.
Yeah.
Because we haven't seen any tripods yet, which is kind of the main point of the War of the Worlds baddies.
Yeah.
But yeah, still it's pretty good. They set it up in the beginning where basically the majority of the world is wiped out all at one time. There's very few survivors, and so it's not like the 2005 War of the Worlds movie where there's masses of survivors trying to escape and there's huge battles and there's tripods and that kind of thing. It's basically small groups of survivors that are very separate from each other, trying to avoid the things that are trying to kill them, and slowly the storylines blend together. There also is, I don't know yet if it's kind of more of a supernatural or if they're going to have a scientific explanation for it, but there's like some visions going on and stuff, and so I'm not really exactly sure where that's going, but they're presented it in such a way that the mystery is interesting, and so I'm curious to see where it goes. So like I said, you can watch the full first 8 episodes now, and then you can decide if you want to subscribe to Epix to continue watching from season two. I guess Epix is about $6 a month, so you'd only have to sign up for maybe a month or two to watch all 8 episodes of season two.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. That's the way I always do it. Like when The Walking Dead comes out, we wait a little while, and then then we get it and we try to catch up. Yeah, I think everyone does
so
that.
if you wait until next month, you can just pay your $6. You can watch all 8 episodes of season two at one time.
Yeah. That's the cheap man's way of doing it. That's me right there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, that sounds cool. I like you said, there's a movie in 2005. Of course, it's all based on when was that? When did that come out? Like the 40s?
1898.
Oh, 1898 was the original.
Yeah.
The novel.
Yeah.
But then the movie itself, when that came out, and it scared the bejesus out of everyone. When was that? Was that?
Oh, so what you're talking about is the radio play.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, it was a radio play.
Drama.
Right.
Yeah. That was 30 something, 35, 39, something like that. Yeah. So, what Sean was talking about is there was, I think it was Orson Welles who produced it, and they put on a radio drama, based on this alien invasion story. And the first half of the radio drama is presented as if it's a radio reporter talking about how this thing crashed in the farmer's field, and then this, robots are coming out of it, and it's blowing up people with its heat ray, and it really did cause some real life panic at the time. So that's a cool radio drama to hunt down if you're into radio dramas. I mentioned before that I actually gathered a bunch of old, public domain golden age of radio dramas, and I consolidated them on a page on archive.org. So there's about 100 different episodes of old post-apocalyptic radio dramas up there, and one of them is the War of the Worlds broadcast.
Oh, nice. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on, we have another piece of news from A Quiet Place, which is the original came out in 2018. The latest one, the sequel, came out last month, so actually like a week and a half ago, and it just blew everyone away. I mean, because it blew everyone away as far as box office sales, the ticket sales at the theater. And I think a lot of that, it's kind of not a level playing field because you know, no one's going to the theater. And
a lot of pent up demand. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like this is the first big one that came out post pandemic, and they're still calling it a pandemic era movie. So $58 million it made in its first weekend. And, that's not, it's not Titanic, but it's it's a big deal for right now, for what's going on right now. So, like you said, pent up, the people really want to watch a movie, so they went and saw this. So I think a little bit of it is that, but also it's a good movie from what I hear. A lot of the critics have seen it and they said they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I haven't yet seen it myself. I did, watch the first one in theaters, of course, and I really liked that one. I wonder if the movie, box office would have been even bigger if they hadn't already pre-announced that A Quiet Place 2 will be on Paramount Plus 45 days after the theatrical release.
Yeah.
Because, usually we have to wait, maybe 90 days or, 3 months or so before it can get to a streaming service. But that's part of the reason why I didn't, make the effort to go see it in theaters, is because I do already have Paramount Plus. And so I'm basically just going to wait for it to come out there and then, watch it at that point. But yeah, it's good to know that, it is getting, such a big, following. Just, gives hope for, more of that storyline in the future.
Yeah. And one point I've heard, kind of on the side of going to watch it in theaters, is that there's some pretty good jump scares. So I've heard that it's actually worth seeing in theaters. Maybe everyone else heard that, and that's why they went and go see it right away.
Yeah, someone told me that too, that it's a little more in your face, some more of those horror elements than the first one was.
Yeah.
Which, I kind of like that about at least the first one, because it was a mystery kind of what the aliens were, what they looked like, all that kind of stuff. We never really saw them, till the end.
Yeah.
I guess now that we have seen them, they can kind of go, whole hog in the second one and just have them be tearing people apart and stuff.
Yeah. And then they even show them in the trailer in this one.
Okay.
But what I think is interesting, though, also is there's a part 3 that's already being confirmed. Now, they were talking about this back in November of last year, that they signed on, Paramount signed on for this third installment. But they're saying, first of all, it's not a sequel. And John Krasinski, even though he started, he wrote and directed the first 2, he started writing it. Well, someone else took over for it. Let me check, see what his name is.
Yeah, I think I saw that too.
Jeff Nichols. Jeff Nichols took over. So Jeff Nichols is writing and directing this third one. Now, again, it's not a sequel. It's not the third one in the trilogy. It's considered like a spin-off, or like in the same universe kind of a thing. Like, I guess like Fear the Walking Dead does with Walking Dead.
Yeah. It'll be like Rogue Aliens, a Quiet Place story or something like that.
Yeah, well, it'll be like from the aliens' perspective or something, like they keep hearing things and they're like, what is all this noise? Because they have hypersensitive hearing. I don't know. But I think it's interesting to note that they're going in such a different direction. They're not making it continue the storyline, which, I mean, how many times can you do that, with the same family?
Yeah.
But then they're calling it a spin-off. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't really seen, part 2 yet. From what I hear, it kind of changes the baddies a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe they introduce elements in that, which they can then enhance, over on the other one. It'll be interesting if they, call it A Quiet Place 3 or not. Sounds like they won't, because, maybe they do want to continue the story of 1 and 2 on that side. And so that'll be the real Quiet Place 3. So,
yeah.
But yeah, any expansion of the universe is good. I definitely like to see, branching storylines, and, if they do or they don't re-interact with each other, either way is fine with me. But yeah, expanding universes is always a good thing.
Yeah. What I think is weird is on IMDb, they do call it A Quiet Place Part 3, which, I mean, that could just be, working title.
Yeah.
But I just thought that was interesting. But I'm interested to see what, where they go with it. Who would have ever thought, watching the first one, that they would be doing a third one in a couple of years? But
Yeah.
because it seems like a kind of a one-off story, but
Yeah, like you said, there's not a whole lot you can do about, hiding from aliens who can hear you. But
yeah,
yeah, apparently they're figuring out a way.
and they're doing well. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. Okay, another thing I want to talk about was wool. We talked about wool a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a Reddit AMA just recently that you wrote about.
Yeah. Yeah, Wool is one of those novel series that is near and dear to my heart. I often kind of think about, I don't know if you've ever thought about like your desert island books. Like
Oh
if
yeah.
you were stranded on a desert island, which books would you want to have with you and only be able to read those books over and over again for the
Oh
rest of
yeah,
your life?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so the Wool trilogy is high up on my list of books that I would take with me. Um, so yeah, basically the deal is Hugh Howey is the author of Wool and many other books. He put out this first serialized part of Wool back in 2011, and it was initially meant to be just a single short story, and that was it. So he put out that first book. It was about 90-ish pages or so, and then people loved it. So he started writing a second part and then a third, fourth, and fifth part. And then those 5 parts were later consolidated into basically book one of the trilogy. And then, within 3 years, he had sold like 200 million books worldwide. And so, over the years, finally, now, as the news we reported last week or two, Apple TV has finally picked up rights to the entire Wool series, and they will, start filming next month or so. And so that's why author Hugh Howey was on Reddit, I think it was last Thursday, to kind of give an update and talk about the Apple TV show. And so basically what I did for the article is I kind of combed through the Reddit post and I pulled out just his answers and kind of formatted them up, put them together in an article. But yeah, there are a couple of sort of interesting tidbits that came out in that. Um, the first one that he gave us is the fact that there are going to be 10 1 hour long episodes in season one. And, nowadays with a lot of shows, some are only 6 episodes, things like Sweet Tooth are like 8.
Mm-hmm.
So to get 10 full episodes is kind of it's kind of a cool thing. And the fact that they're, an hour long, not like 10 half-hour episodes or something.
Yeah.
Um, but then the key thing that he said about those 10 episodes is that first season is only going to get us halfway through the first book. So the first book again was 5 serialized parts, and so we're basically going to get through the first 2, maybe 3 parts in these 10 hours of TV.
Wow.
Which is good for me and for fans of the trilogy who want to really explore the backstory, because one of the other questions that he was asked is, what is the fact that you are doing this in episodic TV? What is that going to allow you to do that you couldn't do in the books? And so basically, he said it lets us kind of flesh everything out, kind of expand the storylines, and also to add in a lot of backstory. Um, I don't want to give anything away about the story, but basically you're following a group of people. It's clear from the opening scene that they're in a bunker. But why they're there, how long they're there, who put them there, all that stuff is part of the fun of watching, to try and figure all that stuff out. Um, but to be able to add even more of that backstory and that lore um, into the TV show, more than was already in the books, that's going to be gold for fans of the story as it exists so far. So
Yeah.
I'm really looking to see that. Um, and then so the first 10 episodes we're going to get maybe half of the first book. It covers a lot of important things, but it only begins to introduce some of the main characters at that point. Um, so somebody asked Hugh, how many seasons are you hoping for? Like, how much are you going to need to flesh out the entire series? And he basically said that they think 4 seasons would be about the right amount. He doesn't want to drag it on too long, have a show kind of overstay its welcome, but he thinks they'll be able to get things done in 4 seasons or so. So um, I haven't really watched too much on Apple TV. Do they do just like 1 season per year, or do they bring out a second season within, a 12-month period,
Yeah, they can do that where they can bring it all out, and then they also have a week, like kind of like Hulu does, where they bring out the weekly show each
Yeah,
week.
yeah.
They have a couple shows where they do that. Actually, a couple that my wife and I are watching right now, and I know Netflix doesn't do that, but Hulu does that,
Hmm.
and I don't even think Amazon does that. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I prefer to binge to watch them all at one
yeah,
time, but for, like Handmaid's Tale, I'm watching them, week to week, and um for Wool, when it comes out, I definitely will be keeping up, week to week. So,
yeah,
I guess, yeah, that might take 10 weeks or so. Hopefully, we don't have to wait, a whole year for a season two to come out. But yeah, I think that's definitely going to be, one of the shows to watch. So Hugh says that the filming of the show is going to begin next month in July. Um, and so when that happens, I'm sure there'll be a lot more leaks and we'll get, more information about the show and
yeah,
casting and such. So far, we've only seen one confirmed uh, cast member, which I think you reported on your initial articles. Rebecca Ferguson has been cast as the character of Juliet. She is sort of the main, you know, uh, protagonist that you would follow through all of the books. She's kind of the main of the main characters. Um, so we do know who's in that one.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it sounds like just from from his answers that Hugh is involved in the he's in the writers' room. He's not actually writing the whole show, but he does have a lot of creative input on it. So hopefully, a lot of what fans liked about the books will be translated into the show, and hopefully it turns out to be a good one that we can watch over and over again for years
yeah.
to come.
It's always good when the original creator is involved. It's
Hmm. Hmm.
it just it adds more merit to it, and so that
Yeah, and some of the times where like I'm just thinking of the recent miniseries of The Stand, where Stephen King didn't have a lot to do with writing episodes and stuff, and it wasn't the greatest adaptation of a Stephen King book ever. But yeah,
yeah,
so it is always a good sign when the original writer's there and he's like, oh well, I did this for this reason, and you know this is important because of this, and maybe he did have backstories in his head that didn't get on the paper that he can now introduce to the other writers and they can flesh those out. So
yeah,
yeah, I have high hopes for this, and especially being on Apple. Most of the shows that have been there have been fairly high quality so far.
yeah. Oh yeah, I agree. I really like Apple Plus. It's one of the. It's kind of like my new. It's not my favorite streaming service, but they are really doing well. I mean, they have some great shows on there.
Hmm.
And what's great is, when you buy an iPhone or an iPad or something like that, you get a year of it for free. So it's like an
Yeah,
instant audience, and it's a really smart move on their part, I think.
yeah. So you just update one device a year, and then you
Yeah,
kind of get free Apple TV for forever.
that's
Yeah.
what I tell my wife. We're hooked on Mosquito Coast right now, and we've been watching that. And I think, let's see, I think my Apple Plus is going to run out in like 2 months or something like that. So I said, well, I got to buy a new iPhone.
Yeah, and do you remember offhand when C season two is coming out?
Oh no. Yeah, I don't know offhand, but oh, I can't wait for that. That was a good show.
Yeah, I was just trying to look. I don't know if it's been released yet, but yeah, that was one that was sort of. I mean, I had bought it, my an iPhone, a few years back, and I never even bothered to activate the Apple TV Plus.
Oh yeah.
But then when C was coming out, I was like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll go and I'll watch that, and yeah, that's definitely a good one. If you have access to Apple TV Plus and you haven't watched C yet, and you're a fan of the genre, then yeah, absolutely go take a look at that one too.
Yeah. They're definitely becoming competitive in that market. Before Apple Plus was just like another like Roku or something like that, where you just
Hmm.
use it to watch other channels, you know, to as an access to other channels. But
Yeah,
now they
exactly.
have originals. They have really good originals, So, and they
Yeah,
have
yeah,
that
yeah.
Tom Hanks original coming up. It used to be called BIOS. Now it's called Finch.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
coming up too.
When
So,
you said Tom Hanks on Apple TV, I was thinking of they released that World War II
yeah,
destroyer
Greyhound.
movie. Yeah,
Was
a
it?
couple months ago.
Yeah,
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 yeah, I watched that. That was really good.
yeah. That was good too. Yeah,
Yeah, it's not post-apoc, but if you have Apple TV, it's worth watching.
yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into Sweet Tooth now because we have a lot to discuss with that. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Bill and I have both watched all 8 episodes. I think it's safe to say we both enjoyed it,
Mhm.
and I want to talk about the show itself, what it's about, but not give anything away at those last 2 episodes because I usually, well, I hate to sound pretentious, but I I pride myself on guessing what's going to happen in a lot of these shows. I'll say it to my wife when we're watching. I'm like, this guy's going to be the one that at the end, and it usually turns out a lot of shows are so predictable. This didn't do it to me, and I was kind of like disappointed in myself. I'm like, oh, I missed that cue.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But overall, so I've explained it on the show before, but for anyone who hasn't heard, it's a show about a kid. He's like a hybrid kid, half deer, half human. Not really half, but and
Yeah.
after this big event called the Big Crumble, takes it kills a bunch of people. There's this virus that wipes out a lot of people. They call it the sick, and it's kind of parallel to what we're experiencing now. I mean, on a much bigger scale. And they
Mhm.
don't know at first if this pandemic caused the children to be born as hybrids, because every child born after this happened were all hybrids of some animal. They didn't know if it was the children that came first that caused the pandemic or the pandemic that caused the children to be born like this. Now, we do find out later, later in the show, but uh, it's kind of a show that when you first look at it, you first watch these trailers and you say, this looks like a kid's show. And I think a lot of people wrote it off as that maybe when they first saw it, because you have the 9-year-old boy and they're going for the cute factor. They show the cute kids, the infants who are born, and they all have different, animal parts on their faces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people saw that and they said, wow, that might not be for me because it looks like it's a kid's show. Well, I wrote an article about it last week saying it's not a kid's show. And it's not that it's like overly, it's not horrible. It's not like, an X-rated movie or anything. It's just that it's not made for kids. It has a lot of really dark stuff in it. And there's death and there's, killing and there's hunting the kids down. And there's some stuff like that in the, in the kind of plot that would make it so that if a young kid, the age of that kid, the 9-year-old in the show, I don't think a 9-year. I have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they would completely. I didn't try to show it to them, but I think they would just be like, "This is not interesting to me," and they might even get scared from it. So
Yeah. It's like you said. It's kind of a contradiction in and of itself, where it kind of does go for that cute factor,
yeah,
and it has kind of the voiceover and even some of the music. Um, as I was watching it, I don't know if you remember an old TV show. I don't know if it was on ABC or whatever. It was called Pushing Daisies.
oh
That
yeah,
it kind of had that had the voiceover intro, and then it was sort of quirky and silly, and it kind of reminds me of that kind of style.
yeah,
But then yeah, like you said, that combined with Jep beating someone over the head with a bear trap, at the same time. So
yeah. That's the part that I was thinking of when I wrote my article. I think that was in the first episode where there's a hunter that hunts down Gus, the little boy, and Jep comes up behind him and just throws a bear trap over his head, and it kind of introduces you to the fact that this is not a kid's show and it's going to have some some bloody stuff in it. Now they didn't.
yeah.
I guess they didn't really get. It wasn't like Walking Dead gory. They just kind of threw it over his head and then they cut away. But
Yeah, there's not a lot of, gratuitous blood or gore, but
no.
you'll see the guy take the swing, but then you won't actually see the results of it, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and I wonder if they did that to just in case people wanted to watch it with their kids and but to me it's like you have to pick
Yeah,
one. You
it
can't
doesn't
do all
go
of it.
enough that you can. It's not kid friendly yet.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, like you said, we have The Walking Dead, Fear of the Walking Dead, Black Summer 2 coming out,
Yeah.
and those do have the, that higher level of actual on-screen gore and violence and all that. So maybe they wanted to kind of position themselves a little bit away from all those other ones, so they
Yeah.
don't, always get compared in the same breath. So,
Yeah, that's a
but
good point.
yeah,
I
but
think,
yeah, I mean, I was gonna say I definitely, really like the show. Like I said, I like the way it's a little silly and a little quirky. Um, I often don't love, kid or teenage characters. They make bad decisions a lot of the time, and you're like, oh, kid, why are you doing that? And
yeah,
there's a little bit of this in a little bit of that in this show, but
yeah,
at the same time, yeah, the main character Gus, he's kind of so cute and so almost innocent and naive because he was brought up away from everyone. Um, so you kind of give him a pass on that, and yeah,
yeah.
like all the other characters, Jeff and Bear, and you know, they seem to care for each other, but at the same time, they're out to survive, and like you said, there's bad stuff going on in the periphery that's catching up with them.
Yeah, and I think it's funny the way that things play out. It starts out where even through that first episode, I guess until the end, you're really like, this could still be a cutesy family movie. And then they get away from that. Like they go to different, they kind of, I don't know, in any kind of movie like that, where like The Stand, for instance, where they'll go to different groups and they'll go from their point of view, their perspective. And then they'll even kind of touch back a little bit on flashbacks, on how things work, how people got together and how they were developed and things like that. And I think they did that well, where it wasn't confusing, it wasn't overly done, and you can still stick to kind of that main storyline with Gus and Jep, but we get to see more of Jep's story. We get to see more of Gus's story, even Gus's dad,
Yeah, and like you said, they sprinkle in this backstory at the point in the live story where now you need to know this thing, so now we're going to show it to you. And
Yeah.
um, so I mean, yeah, a lot of the times I prefer to watch or to experience media kind of in strict chronological order. Um, so like for the recent the Stand miniseries,
Mm-hmm.
it came out and it went back and forth, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Flashbacks. So I actually watched it via a fan edit that re-edited everything into chronological order. So I just watched it straight through with like no flashbacks.
Oh, yeah.
And even for Wool, that's another one where there are flashbacks in that as well. And so back in the day, I actually downloaded all the books and text and I re-edited them all into a chronological Wool story, and I read it that way for my third or fourth go through. But
Oh, that's cool.
in Sweet Tooth, they like I said, they did it right where when it is necessary that you now know more about a character's backstory, then they introduce it at that point, and it flows very well with what is happening in the main storyline at the time. It doesn't give you like major spoilers, but it's enough to keep you interested, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's made very well.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting too. There's an article on Den of Geek that talks about the differences between the show and the comic book. And I was always curious about this because I never read the comic book, but they go through point by point and kind of talk about, what it is that made the TV show. I mean, a lot of times, when there's an adaptation like this, people get a little cynical about that adaptation, and they say, oh, you made it too kid friendly, or you made it, you didn't left out a lot of details. Well, that's kind of what they say on here. They say the comic books are darker, which I could see.
Okay.
I mean, it's still the
Yeah.
TV show is still kind of dark, but I could see it. It seems like they're holding back a little on the darkness.
Yeah. Like you said, we see the swing, but not the crunch. They could have added
Yeah.
all kind of blood and gore, and we've seen characters that are big and strong, but they're still kind of sweet on the inside, or they're sort of like I said, they're caring for each other.
Yeah.
In a real apocalypse, they might be a little darker. Maybe they enjoy killing people, or
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. Like the dad, Gus's dad, he calls him Pubba. In the comics, apparently he's a little more cuckoo. Like he lost his mind from being out in the woods for many years and by himself or with Gus, and so he has a little bit more of a kind of a fanatical point of view. And actually, I thought this was interesting. So there's, the doctor, Dr. Singh.
Dr. Singh, yeah.
In the comics, according to Den of Geek, they say that Dr. Singh read some of Pubba. What's his name? The dad. I forgot.
Richard Fox.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Something.
Or you mean the actor?
No, I meant the character.
Yeah, I think it's something. I thought it's Richard Fox, the dad.
Yeah. So so Dr. Singh reads these writings of his. I don't know how he got a hold of them, and he believed that Gus was a god, and so he kind of fell into that mindset, thinking that Gus was this god, and that's a whole. I mean, I can't imagine that in the TV show, because that would be a whole different thing.
Yeah.
So it's interesting,
especially because Dr. Singh is he's a man of science, and he doesn't seem like the kind, unless he went a little cuckoo also. I mean, who knows what the world is like in the comics, if the virus maybe had some other effects on people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that might be it too. But I found that interesting. And then there's the darkness of the characters themselves, like Big Man, Jep, he's supposed to be a lot darker. And we kind of get a hint of that, because he's a former mercenary, with I forgot what they're called. The guys
the last men.
Yeah, the last men, the ones that go around hunting. And he has that tattoo, or he has a scar on his chest.
A brand, I think.
A brand, to show that he was the last man. And I guess in the comics, they play him out to be a lot darker. We do get his backstory later on in the series, and it's a really interesting backstory. I love that. Again, it's not that part of it isn't anything that's that surprising. When we see kind of where he comes from, why he wants to save Gus, even though he's this big, strong guy who used to be a last man, and then all of a sudden now he has this, this heart for Gus, and he wants to save him. Well, I mean, you can pretty much guess why that happened, and it does like that. But apparently there's a lot more to him that's a lot darker. And it was funny, is reading this whole synopsis of the changes and the differences. It makes me want to just go read the comic books.
Yeah. Comics are, what was it, 2008, 2010?
Yeah.
Somewhere in that area. I don't know if it was in that article you pointed me to, or maybe I looked at the wiki, but I noticed somewhere that the 8 episodes that we got on Netflix roughly tells the story of the first 12 comics of the series. And so I was looking, and it looks like there was 40 total comic issues. So, if we're on, episode 12, hopefully we get 3, maybe 4 seasons of Netflix to kind of flesh out the whole story. That'd be pretty cool.
I would say they're definitely going to do a season 2, especially the way they left off. And like you said, it's just started to touch on the comics themselves.
Yeah. And I was looking on Rotten Tomatoes. It has something like a 98% critics positive score and a 92% fan score. So I mean, Netflix would be a fool to cancel this one.
Yeah, it's the #1 show on Netflix right now, which is pretty cool.
But it just shows how great the genre's doing.
Yeah. A lot of people are, and I don't know if this is just cynics, in comments, but a lot of the commenters in some of these articles I was looking at were saying that this is the time that Netflix cancels shows like this, which I don't know if I believe that, but it's a successful show, let's go ahead and cancel the next season.
Yeah.
I can't think of an instance where they've done that though, so I don't know.
Yeah, not a popular one, but hopefully, I'm pretty sure we're going to see a season 2 of this one.
Yeah, I hope so. Okay, so continuing on with this, a little more of the differences. They talk about the story itself actually changes quite a bit. They say that Bear is a character in the comics, but not the same way she is in the show. She's not like the leader of this group. And also the group that she leads at the preserve is not kids. It's supposed to be all adults that are like sympathizers with the the hybrids. I thought that was interesting, because I think that it's such a big part of the TV show where it's kind of like kids versus adults. and to
Mm-hmm.
make the sympathizers be adults kind of throws that off. So I kind of like the way they did it in the TV show, I guess.
Yeah, most of the, like I said, the sympathizers are, kids helping kids. There are a
Yeah.
few adults on, their side as we see throughout the show. Um, but yeah, I think I might actually go pick up the comic myself and kind of
I've convinced you, huh?
yeah, see what it looks like from that perspective.
Yeah. It seems interesting. It was not on my radar at all before the show, and I imagine it's
Hmm.
probably in high demand now. Like check eBay and see if the prices are going up or something.
Yeah, yeah. I would probably get it digitally, but
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I always, being old, I always think if it's digital, it should be cheap, and then, it's $4 an issue or whatever,
Yeah.
cover price, normal cover price. And
Yeah, not anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I'll check it out too. I've had my eye on this one for a while, and I remember, I've talked about it a bunch of episodes back.
hmm
But I do see a season 2, and like you said, up to 4. I mean, that would be great. Although I don't
yeah,
know. I don't know if they could push it out that far, keep everyone's attention that long, but that'd be
yeah.
cool.
Again, I don't know what as of right now in the show, we kind of have, one major big baddie. I don't know how long they can, fight that one guy unless they pull a Walking Dead where they beat the baddie of the season and then they move on to
Yeah,
another one next season or something. Yeah, yeah. I don't
yeah,
know where the comics go, but yeah, we'll have to check that out.
yeah. According to the comics, they this general guy is the main enemy.
Okay,
He's the main
okay,
bad guy
okay.
throughout the whole thing. But like you said, I mean that can work through comics, but in a TV show, people want to see a new face. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, yeah. At least the second season would be good.
yeah,
Wrap up all the things left outstanding.
yeah. Oh yeah. I keep wanting to talk about those last 2 episodes, but
Yeah, maybe
not
maybe
yet.
next week will be soon enough, or the week
Yeah,
after
yeah.
at least.
Sometime down in the future, I think that'd be cool because I want to just talk about. I shouldn't do
Well,
it.
Derek and Steph do their in-depth dives on Handmaid's Tale. You guys can do an in-depth dive on Sweet
Yeah,
Tooth.
yeah, yeah. Definitely like a little
Yeah,
side thing or something. Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be a good idea. And I was talking before about how it's not a kid's show. Um, and I wanted to go kind of point by point on, the reasons that I gave for why this is not a kid's show. I just want to make sure that people understand, because I think that there's some things in it, of course, like I mentioned, that make you think at first that it might be a kid's show. But then once you get down to it, it's not. And I think the main thing, and I mentioned the death and killing and everything is in there. There's a real dark kind of underbelly to the whole thing, but also there's the language. They don't really, they're pretty unapologetic about their language, which I'm not a huge, like, I don't, it's not a big deal to me,
hmm
but it's enough to where not only did they get a TV 14 rating for it, which basically means you should be 14 to watch it. But also,
Mm.
I noticed this is Netflix has a separate part of their streaming service called Netflix Kids. And
Oh, okay.
my kids, that's all my kids watch. We just switch over to Netflix Kids and then they can watch whatever they want from there.
Oh,
Well, they
okay,
don't
okay.
have Sweet Tooth on that side of things, which means that
Yeah.
Netflix themselves are like, this isn't really for kids. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good indicator right there.
Uh,
And then another thing I want to talk about, I want to talk about this all day. I thought it was interesting. I wrote another article about this, about people's reactions to those hybrid children. When Netflix posted pictures of these children, there's like a bird hybrid, there's like, there's the antler,
mhm.
the deer one, and there's a pig one and things like that. And people freaked out. People were like, this is nightmare material. They're saying it's terrifying. And I didn't really get that at first. I didn't really think it was cute, but I didn't think it was like nightmare material. What did you think about it when
Yeah.
you saw it?
Yeah, I mean, I do think they're kind of cute. So basically, what we're talking about is like a little baby, picture a baby. He might have like little stub horns and, maybe like a patch of fur coming
Yeah.
down his nose, or might have like a pig nose, or, you know, um, yeah, I mean, they're cute to me, nothing scary, but, on social media, people are free to just kind of, say what they want or kind of, you know, kind of overstate their opinions just because they want to engage and kind
Yeah.
of, get a back and forth going. But yeah, I mean, I don't find them scary, but yes, it is interesting that people do. And, if will those people then watch the show or not, or are they scared away?
Yeah.
And then after they do watch the show, I wonder if they kind of change their opinion of these, the weird goat boy,
Yeah.
after, seeing goat boy in action and, is he
Yeah.
still scary or what?
I think it's ironic too that people's reaction to this, because that's what a big part of the movie is. The movie is about humans who reacted poorly
Yeah,
to hybrid children
that's
being born, and
exactly
they're
true.
trying to eradicate them. And well, here you go. We have an instant movie.
Yeah,
The movie's playing itself out in Twitter.
it's life imitating art, as they say.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
exact.
And so that's
Yeah,
why
so
when I wrote the
uh,
article, I said it's like ironic that people are freaking out about it. It's like that's what the show's about, people.
yeah. Wow, yeah, I hadn't ever thought about it that way, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Uh, okay, so we have one more topic that you want to talk about, that adaptation, the book adaptation.
Yeah, just briefly, just something that came across the news feed the other day. There's a series of books called the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin, and I myself haven't read these books, but apparently they're very popular. Um, the first book in the trilogy came out in 2015, um, and at the time it won the Hugo Award, which I believe is best sci-fi novel of the year.
Hmm.
Um, and then book two of the trilogy came out, and that book also won the Hugo Award. And then book three of the trilogy came out, and again, that book won the Hugo Award. So it's the first time in history that the same author has won the Hugo 3 years in a row. And it's also the first time in history that all three books of a trilogy won the Hugo. So, these books are, highly acclaimed and, have a large following. And basically they are far future post-apocalyptic. So a lot of what we talk about on post-apocalyptic media and is kind of the more near-term apocalypse. So we'll talk about zombie apocalypse or plague apocalypse and what happens within a year or two of the apocalypse that's going on. But the post-apoc genre is so broad that lots of things are counted as post-apoc, right? So in this case, it's a far future Earth where they have what they call seasons, and they're basically generation-long cataclysmic storms that scrub the surface of the Earth. And so, survivors of these seasons, they kind of huddle in these comms, I think they're called, and they kind of ride out the most recent apocalypse. And then when it's over, they come out and they kind of rebuild civilization.
Hmm.
And so over the course of these novels, apparently, there's multiple apocalypses and different kind of civilizations are reborn kind of after each one. And so the stories kind of go back and forth between these different times in the history of this world. Um, and so the reason we're bringing all this up now is because it was reported just a couple days ago that TriStar Pictures, which I guess is part of the Sony Pictures family, they have now optioned the rights to a film series, conceivably a trilogy. We don't know how many films it's going to be. Apparently, it was a seven-figure deal, so I guess that means that N.K. Jemisin gets at least $1 million for the options, which is, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
And then the other news is that, again, the author, N.K. Jemisin, she will actually be writing the screenplays for the films herself. And so fans can be fairly sure that, the adaptation, will be, spot on. As we talked about earlier, there's always, a bonus when the original author is there to help steward the on-screen versions. And
Mm-hmm.
so in this case, Jemison will actually be, writing the films. We don't have any kind of a time frame yet. If they just did the options now, it could be another year and a half before they, start filming. So it could be, 2, 3, 4 years before we actually see them in theaters. But
Yeah.
I think these are going to be a big deal, when they do come out, and so it's probably something that we're going to be following for a couple of years now. That like we did with A Quiet Place 2, where it's like talking about it last year, where the movie's on its way, and then eventually we get to say how it's out. So
Yeah.
yeah, keep an eye on the Broken Earth trilogy. I believe the first book is called the Fifth Season. I actually just picked all three books up for the Kindle, so I'm gonna, eventually, before the movies come out, I'll go in and give them a read and see how they are.
Cool. And write about them, right?
Yeah,
Your own
yeah,
reviews.
definitely.
Right?
Yeah, it's one of the things where it's sort of not really lacking, but there aren't as many book reviews on postapocalypticmedia.com. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did plan to check with Derek and Steph and see if we might be able to slide some print media
Oh
articles
yeah. I'm
into the
sure they'd be
site.
all right with that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't read them either, but I have heard of them. And when you mentioned it before we started recording, I said, that sounds really cool. And it's basically breaking news, right? Because they just announced that today.
I think I saw the article. It was from a day or two ago, or two or
Okay.
3 days ago. Yeah. So yeah, it's fresh news, and I'm sure there are lots of fans around the world who are excited about this. The same way that like I'm excited about the Wool trilogy finally making it to the screen. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's going to be a pretty big fan base around this series, I think.
Cool. Speaking of that, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that I just realized. I wrote about it today, right before we started recording, and that's Y the Last Man, which it's the letter Y and then colon the Last Man, is another comic book series that I think it was a DC comic that it has been confirmed to be on Hulu in September. So September 13th, I think, is when it's coming out. It's a really popular series, the comic book series itself, and I think there were like 60 issues.
Wow.
And it's one of those things that's been in the works. Like they tried to make a movie 10 years ago, and that fell through. And then they started making this TV show. Well, now that 10 years ago, we didn't have the same platforms we have today, as strongly, like Hulu and Netflix and everything. Netflix was probably still doing DVDs 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
So a lot of people are excited about this, and what it is kind of basically is that it's a comic book about there's only two male mammals left, and there's a man and a monkey, and so they are trying to survive in this world where everything with a Y chromosome has been wiped out. That's why it's called Y the Last Man, and they don't really tell too much about it past that. I haven't read the comics, but from everything I've seen, people talk about it's fantastic. I've seen the comics; they look fantastic, like really well drawn.
Is it black and white like The Walking Dead, or is it a full color comic?
It's full color, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks really beautiful, and so this has been a long time coming. There's been director changes, there's been cast changes, so hopefully this actually comes to fruition. That's what I'm hoping. It's been a long time. So September on Hulu. It's actually on FX on Hulu. So it's one of those things where you have to like get Hulu and then get FX on Hulu. So
Yeah. So is that going to be an extra paid subscription?
I don't know. I know that
Yeah, I
they do
wonder.
that. Like on Amazon, they do that where if you want to get AMC, you have to pay for AMC and Amazon Prime. I don't know if they'll do that for this particular thing. They have done it before, but we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, it sounds like it'll be one that's worth watching.
Yeah.
One thing I heard about the fact that you said the filming was so delayed. Something like at one point they had an issue with the monkey,
Yeah.
and PETA was involved, and like, oh, you guys can't, exploit the monkey and make him act on screen and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think I saw that apparently now the monkey is full CGI.
Full CGI, yeah. And the monkey, the original monkey, was the monkey from Friends. I don't know if you ever watched that. Marcel, I think his name was. He was like Ross's pet monkey. So they were trying to get that same monkey to be in this. Yeah, I mean that was 10 years ago. So who knows?
Yeah, that's how long they've been working on
Yeah.
the TV show, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean people know what Friends is now because of the reunion. But if you said a couple of years ago, people would be like, "What?" I think my mom and dad watched that show.
Yeah.
You know?
I have a friend at work who can't believe that I've never watched Friends.
So I think,
Right.
I think it's funny that they originally were going to have that monkey, and then PETA gave him a hard time about. Well, I don't know if it was the circumstances exactly, but there were some training issues that they were, I guess, overlooking, and they didn't like what they saw, so they said, why don't we just do it CGI? And yep, that'll solve all that problem. So it's going to be a CGI monkey. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how that
Cool.
works out. But
Yeah. Hopefully it works well.
yeah.
It'll be like not Simba. What was who's the tiger in Walking Dead?
Oh yeah. I forgot the name, but yeah,
Yeah.
that
so
was
Simba.
yeah. It had some moments where
Yeah,
you'd be
there's
like, oh, that looks really fake.
yeah. So some parts was kind of cool. Some parts was like, ooh, but yeah,
Yeah.
even a couple years later, technology is advancing so fast.
Yeah.
Hopefully, nowadays, yeah. But I'm definitely looking forward to it. And yeah, that's another one where, yeah, I might have to go back and finally, read the comic because, so again, see how the adaptation comes out.
Yeah. 60 issues. That's a
Yeah,
lot. A lot to
I'm
catch
still
up
not
on.
done reading Walking Dead, but I do in fact want to go back and finish that.
Yeah.
Have you read those comics?
No.
One thing that's kind of cool is, not to totally sidestep, but I don't know if you saw that, the original Walking Dead comics were all black and white. Um, and now they are putting out, I forget if they just called it remastered or revisited or whatever, but they're putting out full color version of the original Walking Dead comics. Um, and the problem is that they're doing it like once a month, like, the original comic release would have been. So to get through, 180 comics, it's going to take like 15 years. But, I'd rather, go back and read the color ones, when they're available finally.
Sorry, I'm losing my voice.
Yeah, that always happens to me too when I talk too much.
I just swallowed wrong. Messed up my voice.
Aha.
Anyway,
Yeah,
so that
well,
means we should probably wrap this up, huh? I lost my voice.
yeah.
But we are at the end anyway, so I want to thank everyone for watching. And we do this every week, every Tuesday. So if you want to learn more about the post-apocalyptic news, that we write about on the site, check us out every Tuesday at 5 p.m. here on Twitch. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Have a nice apocalypse.